When I first saw this book, I thought it was going to be really straightforward. But as soon as I started working on the spine, it was apparent right away it was going to be harder than I thought. My name's Clare Manias. I'm the assistant librarian for book conservation at the Sherman Fairchild Center for Book Conservation in the Watson Library in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. A book conservator concerns themselves with the object of the book. We're not necessarily focused on what it contains exactly, but just the container that it comes in. We think about the people who owned it before, the people who read it before, throughout its history, preserving all those things and then handing it over to someone else to look at.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. So what we have here is an architecture book from the Department of Drawings and Prints. It's a 17th century book by an architect called Giovanni Antonio Rusconi, who's a Venetian architect and engineer from the 16th century. And we'd like to put it on view soon, but it's not in the best condition.
That's true.
This book is a commentary on Vitruvius. We all know the Vitruvian member Leonardo da Vinci, and so Rusconi was finding that a lot of the translations of Vitruvius had a lot of mistakes. So he decided that he wanted to come out with his own Vitruvius edition with the illustrations and the text. And then what we see here is probably another 17th century, either architect or connoisseur who knew a lot about Vitruvius and architecture, translated the text and made their own annotations as they went on through the book.
And they're all directly across from...
related to the printed page. It went on to be owned by several other architects, and we have indications of that here at the front of the book, where there are several labels from the 19th and early 20th century, including by Ogden Cotman, who was a famous American architect for the Vanderbilt family. He built the breakers, and then when he passed away, we bought a lot of the books from his collection, and this is one of them. So I'm very happy that it is here with you now, because obviously it's a very special book, specifically because of the personal interactions that we see in the book that tell us something about its history, about how the book was used, and in its current state we can't really even open it properly, let alone flip through it with a visitor or show it in the gallery.
So this sieve, it's a horsehair grid made to strain paste, and it's from Japanese scroll mounting techniques. And then it will turn it from this like kind of scraggly glob to a smooth, slightly translucent, cohesive glob. There's a pretty straightforward list of things that you check for when you're looking at something. You always look at a book from the outside to the inside. So the attachment of the boards, the condition of the spine, the condition of the corners, the head caps, the tail caps, the joints, and make sure that those are all working. And if they're not, why not? In the case of this book, the covers were off, the original binding was missing, so the repair is the new binding. Okay, so first I'm going to start with toning this paper to replace the missing leather on the book, so I'm just toning it to the same color. I'm using my favorite color, raw umber. It's the perfect color of leather and dirt. The way that people have interacted with books in their entire history, in some ways, is exactly the same, even though materials and technology surrounding them has changed the world, basically. It's immersive, it's personal, and it's so familiar, and yet you really have to be like, well, wait a minute, that piece of thread is 500 years old. It's sometimes you have to kind of remind yourself that there's a timelessness and a time. This is the thing that I think people are going to freak out about, so I'm a little nervous. I'm going to lift the leather on the top. The paper goes under this lifted leather and then attaches around the side. Okay, here we go, ready. The leather was much, much more fragile than I thought. I just went very slow.
Historic books are really good retainers of architectural artifacts that otherwise would not have survived through floods or, war or other destructive activities. My name is Katerina Bong, and I am here to talk about Vitruvius with you. Vitruvius was a famous ancient Roman architect, and I look at Vitruvius as a lens through which architects from the Renaissance understood and interpreted structural failures. A lot of the Renaissance architectural treatises are entirely based upon Vitruvius's ideas, beginning from how to find a good site, what is a good material, how do you build a strong structure, to what sort of technology are employed in these construction sites. Rusconi is very special because he illustrates parts of Vitruvius that a lot of writers or architects left out. Book 2 on material history, usually it's not at all illustrated. Sections on timber, never illustrated, but Rusconi illustrates it. It's a very useful aspect of architectural history.
So today I'm going to attach the board to the book. The treatment was just much more difficult than I thought. It was pretty challenging, but I did lift all along the spine edge and all along the board edge because you often have to take things apart a little to put them back together. I already added the flange to attach the board to, so when the flange slides in, it'll be nice and smooth. I think book conservation differs from other forms of conservation because it's all about accessibility, right? And allowing people to use and consult and learn and get whatever they want to get out of all the books that are here. So now it can be seen and consulted and enjoyed by everybody else. So here's the book.
Yeah, fantastic. It's wonderful to have it back intact like this again. Able to pick it up without worry.
Yeah, as I started to lift the leather, that's when I noticed how difficult it was going to be. But I was able to attach the hinge directly to the spine on the back and directly to the surface of the board, so the attachment is strong. And I also like that the aesthetic is preserved. Rather than giving it a new binding, it still has the cover, so it preserves its age, but is still functional and...
It has its historic authenticity.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's ready to go on view in the galleries.
Absolutely.
It's ready to be consulted again.
Absolutely.
Good, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.